I came across this article, wanted to highlight it. I just found it kind of interesting, just the premise of it and the thought process of it, right? So it's an AP article. It's a startup women's leagues on the rise, fueled by popularity of women's sports. But will they last? By Linus Thames. I think that's correct there. I find that premise so interesting. And here is why I find that interesting. There's a really good chart within the article which showcases all these women's leagues that we're talking about, right? And if you think about it, all these leagues have sprung up, whether they were conceptualized or all the things, right, post-COVID. The only ones within America that we're talking about that were pre-COVID are the WNBA and the NWSL. So soccer and basketball. So everything else, whether it's baseball that's launching, obviously the addition to basketball from an arrival perspective, hockey, which just took off in 24, yet an extra soccer league, right, the Gamebridge League, right, that launched in 24 as well, Athletes Unlimited, which really was conceptualized during COVID, and now they have 3 leagues that are really burgeoning right now, volleyball, which has taken off here in the last few years. But think about that. So all of that really post-COVID. And what I find so interesting is this idea that why would there be this idea that they don't work, right? If we had this boom in men's sports and all these options, which we do with all these other emerging leagues, right? There's not a question of the staying power. And I get it. You have to change habits. You have to make sure that brands get behind it. You need networks. But as you see the changing habits of how we view things, whether it's YouTube or TikTok, Paramount Plus just made that huge splash with Skydance to really take over different sports properties. Whoopi Goldberg launched an all-women's sports network a year ago. There's so many more places now where content can live, which that then becomes the question is more so, what is your storytelling? What is your advantage in terms of the players you have, or the storylines, or the drama that you can create within your league? How can you create that buzz? But that's not, I think, a lot of people's question around women's sports. I think a lot of people still have this idea of will people, the old adage, if you build it, they will come. I think a lot of people don't feel that way about women's sports for some reason. And I think every evidence, every metric would tell you the opposite, right? And I think the other thing is just to be cautious around, you've got to allow these leagues to evolve and to get their footing, to be able to see what their landscape is, to understand the habits of their fans. But the other aspect of that is now there's true avenues for young women and really a pipeline of youth sports for people to understand that they can now go achieve, not just to play professionally or anything like that, but there's dollars there. You can become your own brand, right? You can become this entity now, which it was kind of there before, but now it's truly here. And I think that's a huge thing really recognize here. And that's the staying power. The staying power is that you have more and more people that are going to be in the pipeline that are going to be wanting this opportunity, right? That's the men's side is like there's so many people all the time grasping for what it is, and then obviously then it becomes its own entity, right? Because so many people play it, then you have an affinity towards it. And you're like, oh, well, I didn't make it pro, but I still love the game. I want to go watch the game at a high level. Right? That's how you become fans. And so I think that's the other part that we're kind of missing there is the youth pipeline perspective. And I'm super excited to see that and to see these entities grow. We at Sports Tech Atlanta are working behind the scenes on a couple of those that I mentioned earlier and excited to see their growth and see where they go.